What's going on, everybody? So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the Barbarian and my experience with the early game, specifically as of the launch of the game. For those of you that don't know, been not following the channel for a while, which if you haven't, be sure to sub, guys. I picked up the Barbarian as my first class ever played in Diablo 4. And it's also the first class I brought to level 25, and it has actually been a really enjoyable process throughout because I found it very fun. But what I will say is I always thought the Barbarian's leveling process was really garbage. Now, I'm not claiming that the Barbarian leveling process is like the best, absolutely insane, but I do think that he is actually really good. And the difference between the early leveling process on like a rogue or sorcerer is actually not that much better. Keep in mind I'm playing hardcore right now, so I do have to make some of those modifications. I don't just go full glass cannon, but with that kind of understanding, it's actually not as bad as people would say. And to be fair, that is a correction that I'm making today. Now keep in mind that I am following Rob's 1 to 50 build with some minor modifications that I personally have kind of just changed around. And not everyone's going to run this build. Not everyone's going to run some of the best Barbarian builds leveling. But to be fair, not everyone's going to run the best builds in general on any class. So if your judgment is, okay, how good is the class on average without following a build? Well, the rankings may be extremely different just by nature of them not taking advantage of the class. So for me in this situation, I'm going to be rating it as if someone had kind of been knowledgeable in terms of following a proper build. And the damage on this class is actually nuts in the early game. There are a few things here that really encourage that insane DPS, but the first thing is Death Blow. Death Blow has been an absolute godsend for absolutely just annihilating everything. And I have been running hardcore with my friend DM, and he and I have been playing a lot of the hardcore together. And so we could actually directly compare the sorcerer to the Barbarian. I'm almost always outpacing him. And the main reason for that is the Death Blow just absolutely nuking and being able to be refreshed basically anytime I kill someone, which is almost always when we're talking about the just general leveling process, okay? So that's the first thing. I'm able to reset my Death Blow. I'm able to generate energy that way. And I'm overall just able to do a ton of DPS just with Death Blow alone. But the second reason, and there's 3 total, is actually the ultimate. The ultimate is single-handedly some of the highest burst DPS that I've seen on any class in the early game. And if you're not running Call of the Ancients, you are missing out. This thing is absolutely nuts. Okay, and it really changes your leveling process. Now, we knew this from the beta and how strong the ultimate is, but we've gotten a lot of changes since then, and particularly a lot of monster changes and things like that. But when you find this ultimate and use it on a boss or a group or whatever, it is an absolute game changer. And then couple that with a third reason, which is that we have the damage buffing. And keep in mind that this war cry in my situation here is not going to just grant me the 16.5% extra damage. It's also going to grant me berserking, which gives me 25% increased damage. Now, I'm not quite sure how the Barbarian multipliers work in terms of this skill plus berserking plus the standard damage buckets. Not quite sure how that ult goes together. But what I will say is proccing war cry massively increases my damage, which has been really, really amazing. But then there's kind of a fourth reason where I particularly enjoy it for hardcore, which I actually thought this class would be probably the hardest hardcore class, simply because it's melee, leveling process sucks, I'm going to die early, right? And, you know, I'm sitting out in the open world, I'm probably going to die on my hardcore just by recording this video here. But one thing that I've really gone to enjoy about the Barb is a lot of their unstoppable mechanics, particularly with the rallying cry here. You get unstoppable for the entire duration that Rallying Cry is active. And you can see here Rallying Cry lasts for 7 seconds. I don't actually know if this changes the tooltip. Yeah, so that's right. If this is in, if Booming Voice is in, or any sort of shout duration is on your build, then you'll actually see it in the tooltip, and you can see here it lasts for 7 seconds. So essentially I have 7 seconds of unstoppable every 25 seconds. And then couple that with another aspect that I'm looking to get, Iron Skin, and giving me unstoppable during the duration of Iron Skin, I believe. So that's 5 seconds. We could easily see a close to permanent vulnerable build on the Barbarian, permanent unstoppable, not invulnerable, build on the Barbarian. And this has been really encouraging for my hardcore playthrough. And so I've been extremely enjoying that. And of course, we just have so much damage. We have a lot of options when it comes to actually dashing around, because a lunging strike gives us the ability to actually move towards our target. And it seems a lot less, I guess you could say, slow than you might think. I was playing the Necro in the early levels, and that is much slower paced. But I also played the Rogue, right? And honestly, it kind of feels a little bit like the Rogue with lunging strike. I mean, you can go pretty far. I mean, you can just see here, if I were to like click on this Thorn Beast back here, you can see how far I can leap towards it. That's like a pretty massive durate or length there with that ability, which makes it feel a lot less immobile than I would have expected, because I had not actually played a ton with lunging strike, and seeing as I've played, you know, several hours now with lunging strike, it has been crazy good. Keep in mind that all of this experience is on hardcore and world tier 2, and with that noted, you would expect this to be far easier on any normal playthrough, or potentially on the world tier 1 difficulty, which is just going to be true by nature of lowering the difficulty, right? So I wanted to just make this video because I myself have claimed that the Barbarian is pretty weak in leveling, but I feel like I personally have been unfair with the Barbarian's leveling process, because I don't think it's as good as the Rogues, right? I still think that, but I don't think it's actually bad. I think it's actually good. And I'd probably, if I were to put this on like a tier list, I'd probably put it just a tier under Rogue and comparable to Sorcerer, comparable to potentially Necromancer, and Druid still feels a little bit worse in my opinion, but perhaps, you know, I'll have to do some renewed testing on that as well. So I wanted to make this just to let you all know, don't be scared off the Barbarian because of an awful experience. I personally have found so much fun running Deathblow and Call of the Ancients. Keep in mind though, if you're gonna run Whirlwind or you're gonna run Hammer of the Ancients, you're gonna be sad in the early leveling process. I will say that. So just don't run those two skills. I found Double Swing and Ren to be my favorite. So it does require a good build. And to be honest, that is something you're gonna have to consider. But let me know what you think about the Barbarian down below. Have you guys leveled past this process? I'm sure a lot of you have. I'm sure also a lot of you haven't even reached the end of your campaign journey. And so this could be right where you're at. And for me, this is probably some of the most fun I've had in the game since way back when I was first experiencing the Rogue. Partially because of hardcore, but partially because, well, I get to play Barbarian again. But that's that. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all for the next one.